You're listening to the Business Wealth Impact Podcast, your source for empowering information and cutting-edge ideas from the world's top minds. I'm your host, Jeanne Amlour, founder of seven-figure coaching company, Jeanne Amlour International. Join me on a journey to unleash your potential and create your highest success. Welcome to Business Wealth Impact. Hello, and welcome to another wonderful episode. Today we have Tom Winter. He's founder of SEOwind. He helps B2B agencies and SaaS scale with AI, SEO, and content that drives growth. He's a marketer, a speaker, and a serial entrepreneur. Welcome, Tom.
Thanks a lot. Really great to be here, and hopefully I'll be able to share some things that you will be able to implement the next day.
For sure. So we were just chatting, and we were talking about, how do we know we're doing something well if we don't know what well is? So let's talk about defining what good looks like as far as AI, SEO, and all those good things.
So before we go to that, the main topic that I would like to cover is that how we treat AI, and all of a sudden we feel that we all have superpowers that we want to use. But then what I see, there are two big problems when using AI. One is the thing that you just said, to define how good looks like. The other part is predictability of results. I'll go to predictability a little bit later. But let's start why actually defining how good looks like is so important whenever we want to automate or do anything in AI. Because it's very tempting having on the other side very intelligent person, which is AI, that answers our question and tries to figure out what actually we mean. But just look at this from this perspective. If you want to travel to New York and you don't know where New York is, it's not just going into your car and starting it on and trying to drive in whichever direction you want to get to New York. You actually will see on the map where it is. So you will define your goal. You will define where do you want to head. But when you go to AI and you ask him to do anything, I'm a specialist in content writing. I want to define how good looks like. So this is my direction, where I want to get to, and the definition of how I want to get there. Like, what is my expectation of the things that I will see on the other side? But from the perspective of many people that are using AI, they just go to AI. They ask in content, for example, write me an outline for this or that, write me an article based on this outline. And then they expect to get the big thing, something that is really good on the other side. But they are not able to define what they're looking for. They're leaving the whole thing to AI, which is, in my opinion, not the way to go.
I agree. You need a defined point to get to be able to get there. I use that example a lot in coaching. If you don't know you're going to get to, I say Buffalo. If you don't know you want to go to Buffalo, New York, well, you'll go to the train station and say, oh, I'm going somewhere. And you'll get somewhere and it's not where you want to be. So very important, because I think you're correct. Everybody just wants to, with the FOMO that's going on right now, would you agree with that? So much FOMO. Well, I've got to plug in AI, but we just want to get some of this. But I agree. I don't think that most of us are thinking about what do we want to achieve here and how well can we do that? So let's start unpacking that. How do we figure out where we want to go first, and then talk about how we can create some systems?
So exactly, because when we're talking about using AI, we can actually think about any SOPs that you're doing as a human, like anything that is a service inside your company, that you have a defined script, like what to get, how to do it, and how to get to the final result. You can turn it into anything that you can do with AI. So first, in my opinion, the most important part is to get these definitions of processes that you're normally doing as a human and try to do them in the same way with AI. But it's very tempting just to get rid of half of the steps when you go to AI, because the results that you're getting look on the first glance really good, but to be honest, they're not, because they're not getting the same goals that you have when doing the process step by step according to the definition. So first of all, what I would really recommend, to copy paste exactly the process that you have as a human. I call it human as a service. This is how I always start some kind of process, and then try to mirror it exactly in the same way without reducing the steps into AI, because that defines what is the process and how to get to my goal. It's very, very tempting to skip a lot of steps in between, because AI gives something that is reasonably good at the end, or at
Mm.
least it looks like that.
Okay.
So this is
Okay.
definitely the first step to do.
Okay, I love what you just said because that is literally what we're doing with my company right now. We're going through everything that's being done by a human and we're asking, could we get AI to do this? And we're going through each step and we're building systems. So I feel great right now because I thought maybe we're just being old fashioned, but we're just going through everything and saying, how do we just so good, instead of throwing mud at a wall and thinking, hey, what happened? Is this what people are doing? They're just sort of trying to throw mud at a wall and see what happens?
Exactly. This is like, but as I said, it's very tempting because what we see on the other side looks reasonably good at the first glance. But like we have to resist this temptation, and actually go back to the SOPs, the procedures that we had to get to a specific goal. But you've mentioned you're building systems. Like the great thing about humans, when you go through a process, and just one more thing. I'm also half a developer, so I've been in machine learning for a long time. I can program whatever I want. So I basically can automate any kind of process. But still, my fallback is to do it as a human, check exactly how I go through the system, certain process. Because if I will spend like time on building
Mhm.
like building an app, building automations, I want to be sure that the output is something that I want, because then I will spend a month building an app, maybe a week, but I will lose this week because I will not see the results that I want. So I will have to go back to the beginning. So I prefer often to do it as a human, just to see like, okay, I
Mm.
need to tweak this or that. Going back, don't automate from the first perspective. The second thing that you've mentioned, you're building systems. When you're doing it as a human, the great thing about human experts is that the results that they're
Mm.
getting are predictable. So this is the second part that I mentioned. And when we go to AI, the really big problem that not many people are talking about, that the results are not predictable. So what I mean by that, if you provide to a human expert the same set of data and you're looking for low hanging fruit or like a specific output, 8 out of 10, they will give you more or less a similar answer. Try to do the same thing with AI. Check if you provide the same data, if you get a similar answer. If you don't, that
Mm.
means you're gambling. It's not expertise, it's guessing. Do you want actually to get a guesswork as your output, or you want to have an expertise that is based on specific merits of the things that you give? So this is a huge problem when it comes to AI, how to define the whole task, how to go through the whole process to get predictable results. I'm often working, like for me, predictability is often like 60 to 70% of the whole workflow, just to understand where I'm going, how to make the output predictable. Because when we're working with AI, for example, in content production, this is what our system does. We
Mm.
don't want to guess the output. We have specific goals, specific KPIs that we want to see
Mm.
in the article. Like we measure EAT, and this is what comes to the third thing. So when you know where you're heading, you can define the KPIs to be able to measure, did you get there or not? And this is the third thing that helps me out to define predictability. If you can't measure the output, you can't measure the predictability.
Okay, so let's talk about what you're an expert at. You're talking about content creation. So how let's apply what you just said, AI using content creation. How can somebody go create content, because you're all about driving organic traffic? That's your gig, right? So you're talking about using AI to create content to drive traffic. Well, that's a really good goal, right? We know we want to drive traffic. We want to use content. We want to use AI. How do people do this?
So basically, like if you don't use a system like SEOwind, you can do it also like using vanilla LLM like
Hmm.
ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. But you have to, as I said in the beginning, divide the process into exactly the way that the human did it. To gather the knowledge, what do you do as a human? You start with defining. Let's say I'm an expert in SEO. If I would be writing an article about SEO, what I would do, I would go to Google, check like SERP results. So like what exactly is in Google, who ranks in Google. I would go to every single page of them. I would check what did they write, how did they nail the search intent, what are the interesting parts that they did. Because of course I can take it from top of
Mm.
my head, but that's guessing. I prefer to focus on the data. Then I would create my brief. I would go probably to some tools to understand like what are the keywords that they're ranking for. So I would pull this data and start analyzing it. When I would be creating an outline, so exactly the topic that I want to talk about, what I would do as a human, I would look at the outline and say like, okay, I want to be
Mm.
better than any of my competition. So what do I have to do for that? I would check statistics, maybe new trends, maybe quotes, maybe something totally new that I
Mhm.
don't have in my head, even though that I'm an expert in SEO. So I would search based on the things that I have inside the outline. I would search, let's say, for this heading, I need a case study that says this and this, and it will prove my hypothesis. I need a quote for this, I need something for that, and I would search for that. That's a hypothesis, what I need. I would search for that and ask myself, can I retrieve it? So did I find it or did I not? Like if I didn't find what I wanted, then I need to pivot, change an approach to instead of case
Mm.
study, maybe look for a quote as an example. Because what I need my article to have is a lot of value inside. Like that, I would gather the knowledge. Probably I would also add on top of that my expertise. I talk to the customers, I talk to the product team, I talk to CEO of a company. Maybe I have my own thought leadership insights. I would gather all this knowledge and again use it to write an article based on all these puzzles that I gathered. And there's much, much more because you can also go to your own website. You can gather the data from your own case studies and so on. I would just grab all of these puzzles and put it together and use my brain as a logical engine to digest it and turn it into a
Mm.
valuable piece of content. Then, as a human, what I would do next, I would proofread it because I would treat it as a draft. See from my perspective, is it good? Is it bad? Maybe I need to like resolve certain problems in it and
Mm.
would rewrite it again. Probably then I would add internal links and so on. As you can see, there's multiple steps that I just mentioned. And if you're expecting AI to go through all of that in just one prompt and gathering this data, and if you wanted to do it, that's impossible. So you have to actually do a lot of things on your own.
Right. Okay. I love what you said because as you were speaking, I'm just thinking about all the emails I'm getting from people that are clearly not proofread and AI's just written them and they've just directly posted them and you can tell. So there is a human element that needs to be with AI because otherwise it just looks like AI. But I think people are thinking, oh, it's just going to do it for me. And I think that's been the candy here is just get AI to do that. And I'm thinking, well, we really still have to look at. So I'm glad you said that as well, because I agree with you. I think we still have to have a human reading it, proofreading it to make sure it's representative and it just doesn't look like AI spit out this post or something like that. When we do use AI in our company, we get it written, then we read it and we make sure that it's proofread and it sounds like a human.
Can I stop you here for
Uh-huh.
a moment? Because I don't agree. To be honest,
Mm-hmm.
I would agree half a year ago, but then I asked myself like multiple times, can AI do it? Like, do we need a human? And often I said, like, yeah, we do need a human, as you mentioned, like for proofreading or for defining instructions for a specific thing. But then I
Mm.
thought, no, we don't. Actually, it's all about the whole process. How many times you will iterate? What are the goals
Mm.
of a specific iteration? And to be honest, for most cases, maybe it's sad information, but humans are not needed. And even with proofreading and making it look like a human, also like you have to define how good looks like, how you know that it looks like a human. If you have this definition, it's not that hard to get to that point. To be honest, like we did a Pepsi versus Coca-Cola test. You know this test,
Mm-hmm.
but we did it with content. So we had like a human written content and AI written content,
Mm-hmm.
and actually really good human written content. And we gave it to people to decide because everybody says like, oh, I see
Mm-hmm.
like AI content from a mile. Like really, I can.
Same.
You know what were the results? 70% of people said that the AI written content is human written content. and 30% thought that the otherwise.
Okay, but you said just before
Yeah.
that I was commenting on, now I'm a little confused, so
Mhm.
maybe I misunderstood. You said that we have to be checking and proofreading, we have to do some things ourselves. What did you mean?
I thought how a human would do the whole content writing process. And then I said, like, you have
Uh-huh.
to reflect this process
Oh.
for AI. So divide it into steps, like do this like
Oh,
you would do it as a human, because it's so tempting for people just to do
yes.
everything with one click, like just to write a prompt, like write me an outline for this and that, like write me an article based on this
Okay.
outline. This will not work. You don't define like where you're heading.
So let's get clear. What you're saying is you train AI to do the proofreading, but it's still a step.
Training is a word that I don't like to use because none of the people that I know that are using the word training actually train AI, because that means changing the values on the parameters itself. Nobody does that. But basically providing the knowledge that it should go. As I mentioned, like AI is very similar to our brain. It's a logical engine,
Mhm.
not a search engine. When we're talking about AI systems, we actually are talking about a system that uses 20% of AI and 80% of different things, because we're pulling the data together. And to be honest, I'm not using AI for that because that makes no sense. I prefer to use Python. I prefer to use machine learning. Why? Because it's predictable. It's very easy. It's mathematical. I want to use the things that are mathematical if I can, because this is a lot easier to control. I'm using AI for the things that you would normally use
Mhm.
as a human. So if I'm asking you, what's the percentage of people in United States that drink coffee? How would you answer that? Would you go to Google and check it, or you would go from top of your head?
I would say, I don't know. I have no idea. That's what I would say.
Exactly, but AI can't answer this way. So AI will tell you a number. Is it hallucinated
Mm,
number or an exact number?
right.
I don't know.
Okay.
I would have to check. But like looking at scale, that's a problem because I can't check everything. So what I prefer to do, I prefer to provide AI on a silver platter when I'm talking about like writing an article on coffee. Look, AI, we have an initial paragraph where we want to have a good hook. For example, 82% of
Mm,
Americans drink coffee daily. This is the
mhm.
data. This is a link to the data.
Right. Okay. So what you're saying, to break it down for everybody, is that we have to have more steps and not just one thing and it spits it out. We have to go through the steps as if a human were doing it, but let AI direct AI to keep doing those steps. So what do we do at scale then?
Then we have to actually create systems, which is a little bit problematic because when initially AI was introduced, we all thought like from now on, like we're programmers, we're,
Mhm.
I don't know, architects, like of all kinds of things. We're actually not. Like, to be honest, like we still need to understand how system works to provide like to create them. Maybe we can use N8N, for example. Maybe we can use make.com. Maybe we are programmers and we can do some
Mhm.
things on frameworks like LangGraph as an example. But depending on our knowledge and how we can do things, we definitely, to create
Mhm.
a repeatable task, we need a system. Because if we're just getting 100 prompts that we use, we have a library of 100 prompts. Are we really
Mm.
consistent with using them? Are we able to go through every single time in the same way to get predictable results? No, because the tempting way to do it is basically to write it
Exactly.
straight from our head, like to use a keyboard and start writing something.
Now you were saying the difference between you is you create systems as opposed to what do other
Yes.
developers do if they're not creating systems?
Like there's a lot of developers that are actually creating systems, so you can see a lot of
Mhm.
tools that are AI. To be honest, like probably in a few years there will be a lot of tools that we will be using and we will not even know that AI is underneath. And this is like the great thing, because I don't need to tell an SEOwind that currently you're using
Mhm.
AI to produce this and that. Like I want you just to create the quality that you want. This is my goal. And should I tell you that we're currently using AI to get it?
Nobody cares.
You don't
Okay.
care. It's a
Yeah.
tool.
So SEOwind. Now I remember I was asking you about, and um, you said something like, "Well, you still have to read it" or something. You said you can't just plug it in. So you've created a system for SEOwind, which actually creates content that brings in traffic, correct?
Yes, and like I like to also like proofread it at the end with humans, but is it necessary? Depends on what's your goal.
I guess you could proofread like all of them at first, and then if they're good, then you could say, well, it's pretty good, so we're only going to spot proofread or something, right? Half, half.
Yes, we also have, for example, systems like on our side that read through the articles, check the articles, and provide us information like you should look at this one.
Okay, now let's talk about something that everybody loves: traffic generation. Okay, organic traffic generation. What are the ways now? AI is improving, and I'm not improving; it's developing. Let's just say it's unfolding because it's there already. I believe it's unfolding and multiplying like a monster in some ways, right? And it could be an ugly monster or a pretty
Yeah,
monster. In any case, it's there. And I believe that the possibilities are now blowing people's minds about what we thought 2 years ago, right? So, um, what's new with you lately since we spoke? It's been a while. I'm sure some things have happened. What are some ways now? Apart, is it just with the SEO and article content that you're driving traffic, or are there other ways that you're developing now?
I just came back yesterday from Brighton SEO, which is the biggest SEO conference in Europe. And to be honest, the big topic right now is Geo. Geo is generative AI search. So basically, the search that we're currently doing using all the AI engines. So basically, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Gemini, and how we're using them to answer the questions. And the search engines, generative AI search engines, are becoming better and better. First of all, because they use something called grounding. Grounding means that they not only answer from top of their head, like as I said, like with the coffee, like what's the percentage
Hmm.
of people drinking coffee in the United States, but they actually have an orchestrator on the back end that tries to first retrieve the data. And based on this data, it uses this data to answer the question correctly. And how we're starting to use generative AI search is amazing because we're starting to talk to it like a human to human. It's not a keyword way of searching terms like we did in Google. So I would just write number percentage of humans in United States drinking coffee. This was like how I would do it 2 years ago. But I would actually talk to AI saying like, what is the percentage of Americans drinking a coffee? So this is a full sentence, full conversation that we're starting. And this is a big trend, a big shift how we're searching. And more people are becoming friends with AI and they're starting to search for things and trust AI by searching inside AI, not Google. Because like 2 years ago, there was a term like instead of searching, it was like Googling. Right now, to be honest, like we're back to talking to AI and we're trying to get information from there. And this is a big trend on the market, and we definitely need to appear as companies in the AI search. So we need to also encourage the AI engines to know about us and to understand what we do.
Right, because in real terms, a lot of people are telling me that they're getting clients because AI is recommending them. Okay, so are you developing something other than SEOwind for the GEO now that it's not coming up now on Google search, but to get people to come up in AI searches?
So basically, how we structure the whole articles and what we do there on the content side, this is exactly what AI is looking for. So, like, we have a lot of tricks that we use to make the content that we create, the articles that we create, parsable for AI and easy to understand and something that they like. So, definitely, we switched a lot the way that we're building the content. But apart from that, like since we are not focused on the whole generative AI search, we are focused on building quality content for both Google and Geo. Then we focus on this part. There's like multiple things that you definitely can do for both.
Give me one top thing that people can just do on their own right now.
So one top thing, I would use Schema Markup. Schema Markup is something that you can add on top of your page, but this is kind of describing all the things that the crawler, so the Google that crawls your page, needs to understand, or AI crawling your page needs to understand. So whatever you see as an article, to define specific things in Schema Markup. As an example, you can give information about, like, this is an author of this specific article. This is the company of this article.
Mm,
This is the product. And like you write it in a way that is really easy to understand for the search engine. This is in the code. It's not visible for a human like me if I don't go into the code.
mm.
So it's not on the front side of the page. But for the crawlers that are getting the information about your page, it makes things a lot easier. They don't have to take it out of the content that you wrote, but it's a definition. It's like easy to understand.
Can you repeat that? Is it called, how do you spell it? Schema,
A
SCHEMA, markup. Yes?
markup.
And this basically allows you to sort of, in
Exactly.
a way, create titling so that it's a grabbable title and they don't have to search so much. Yes.
Kind of like flagging certain things that are important. Like, for example, for
Yes.
images, you should add alt text. Alt text for every single image that you have defines what do you see on the image. Why? Because all the crawlers, they
Mm,
don't see images like you. So you should create your page for people with disabilities, like
mm,
especially sight disabilities. Why? Because Google and AI, these are the people, your
mm,
audience with disabilities that you want to
mhm.
create the page for. So that's why you want to structure it in an easy way, understandable way, and easy to grasp.
Now, another SEO person that I know is actually one of my clients. She was saying now you do long titles where it says woman looking, it used to just be woman with something for those alt image explanations. She said AI now generates, if you put the image in AI and say generate a really good one, it comes with a very defined, so people who are sight challenged can understand exactly what's going on in the image instead of before. You remember before it used to say boy with glasses or something, a boy wearing sunglasses, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It has to be valuable, defining exactly what you see in context of what you show in the content that you're creating.
Okay, so Tom, what do you see as the future now of using AI to drive traffic? And we're not talking about ads, we're talking about unpaid opportunities. Where, because you do a lot of research and I know you're going to conferences a lot. And where do you see, and where do the experts that you're listening to, where do they see this all going?
They see like a huge opportunity in changing the market, because at the moment still Google takes 90% of the whole market when it comes to organic traffic. But they see a big shift that is happening to convert this traffic into LLMs. It can be also AI overviews inside Google, but we as a humanity, we expect right now like a different kind of search. And this is like slowly shifting of talking to an expert, not asking Google, give me an answer, then it gives like 10 answers and like tells us like choose one. So instead of that, we actually want to
Hmm.
have a direct answer, custom answer, because they are mostly custom, made specifically for our need. That's why we're turning the whole search
Mm.
into conversation mode, which is very interesting because it's exactly like a human to human would ask. Like if you would go to an expert, you would ask them a question and they would answer. And then based on the answer, I would ask a follow-up question and then get another answer that is suited exactly for my need. It's not suited for general audience. It's just made for me because this is my problem. It's not a general problem that everybody has. And this is like how the whole shift happens. And we have to align to that. Like as SEO experts, we have to understand that it's changing. It's not the first time that SEO is changing, but definitely we have to change the approach to be able to provide the knowledge that both AI and Google wants to see. And that's a huge opportunity, in my opinion, because not everybody will shift in this mindset.
I feel like it's a big opportunity for people that didn't have, a head start with getting on the first page of Google. So it seems like it's a a real opportunity for everybody to be visible now. Do you see it that way as well?
Definitely, there is like a lot of possibilities that will be uncovered and that we will see. And also, like for anybody that is not in SEO, I think it's a huge career opportunity to be able to team up with AI, but understand how it works, to understand how to make it predictable. And from our perspective, also to define how good looks like. Because really, most of the people that I'm talking to, sorry for saying that, but they're lazy. They're not defining it because it's so easy just to AI to do it.
Okay, Tom, very interesting. Thank you for your point of view. Okay, well, thank you for being on. What's one, I'll sometimes ask this, like usually I ask it, what's one mindset or philosophy that you want to leave people with?
I will go to the thing that I already mentioned. Define how good looks like. This is a simple sentence, like really simple, but extremely hard to execute. If you know how good looks like, you can head to good. You can actually drive your process to get to good. So this is one thing that you really like to do.
Thank you for so much for being on the show. And listeners, I hope that you learned a lot about what's going on with producing content that drives traffic and AI today. And we will see you on the next show.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
You're listening to the Business Wealth Impact Podcast, your source for empowering information and cutting-edge ideas from the world's top minds. I'm your host, Jean Amlour, founder of seven-figure coaching company, Jean Amlour International. Join me on a journey to unleash your potential and create your highest success. Welcome to Business Wealth Impact.